we're going to talk about Sagittarius archetypes, right? Sagittarius theme. Sagittarius is immutable fire. So this is a very active and very kind of changeable principle, which is good. We like to think of Sagittarius as broad-minded, open-minded, right? Those are things that help you change your mind, something that we were already talking about this evening. So it's very action-oriented. It's very passionate around things like ideals. It's very adaptable, to new or varied experiences, different experiences. Sagittarian energy is very expansive in that way. It's open and idealistic and friendly and fun-loving. And really rather enjoyable. Sagittarius we consider to be the philosopher, right? The teacher or the free thinker. These are some of the archetypes. Also the traveler or explorer, especially the world traveler, right? The priest is an archetype of Sagittarius, especially from the sense of organized religion, right? The lawgiver, the benefactor, the student. These are also archetypes of Sagittarius. One thing that I like to talk about when we're talking about Sagittarius during the new and full moon practices is I like to bring Steven Forrest's observation into the conversation. And in his book, The Inner Sky, which I really love, and I always recommend if you've never read it, if you're new to astrology or you just kind of want to explore the archetypes of the signs, Steven Forrest's book, The Inner Sky, he observes when he talks about Sagittarius that Sagittarius is really the arrow, not the archer. Right? We think of Sagittarius as the archer because it's the constellation of the archer, but the energy that is Sagittarius is the arrow, right? And the arrow, what does the arrow do? The arrow shoots high, high up into the air, right? It achieves this ultimate vantage point over everything that's below. It seeks its destination from that elevated perspective with an absolutely unwavering singularity of purpose. Right? And so doesn't that benefit us then to kind of step into and embody that energy, that archetype, getting that big picture, taking a step back for a fresh perspective from a new vantage point, being single-minded in our search for that goal, that target that we're aiming for, right? So consider tonight as we move into the prompts, if Gemini, which is the opposite, the zodiacal opposite of Sagittarius, is very detail-oriented and analytical and specific, Sagittarius then is really that big picture perspective, that holistic worldview. And ultimately, Sagittarius is about the growth of the mind, through the expansion of experience, through the expansion of travel, through the expansion of learning, through the expansion of contemplation, even just thinking about things. And then bringing that expanded perspective, that expanded point of view back down to earth and putting it into effect in our lives, bringing it back down to earth to mankind like the arrow, right? And so really it's about seeking understanding, things that bring wisdom, right? It represents a higher state that exists beyond just knowledge learning. It represents faith, not only in a religious sense, but also a faith in humanity, right? So Sagittarius is really about the truth and our endless search for it. And I want you to kind of take that focus on the truth with you into tonight's releasing practice as you consider the prompts. And so here we go. I've added a few tonight. Some of these are carryovers from past practices with the full moon in Sagittarius. Work with whatever you feel led to work with. You don't have to try and work with all of these. That could be biting off quite a bit. And we'll be working with some of these prompts again next month because we have the eclipse at the full moon. So we have another full moon in Sagittarius. So if there's something that jumps out at you tonight, there may be something different next month that you can come back to as well. But ask yourself, especially around the house that Sagittarius occupies in your natal chart, whether being small-minded or whether being less open to new ideas and experiences or information might be holding you back from growth or holding you back from achieving what you really want in that area of your life. Is there a belief, perhaps, that comes from early childhood conditioning that you've carried over into your adult life that is affecting that? Is it possible that that belief was taught to you rather than being a conclusion that you arrived through your own experience or through exposure to ideas from others who are outside of your culture or your belief system, or through just contemplation, through just thinking about it? And if that's the case, ask yourself whether that belief is still serving you or whether you can just let it go. And sometimes, keep this in mind, if you don't quite feel ready to let it go, or if you don't quite feel capable of letting it go, you can just intend, you can set the attention that you ultimately want to and invite some opportunity for that shift to happen inside of you, even if you don't really see the way for that to happen yourself right now. Okay, but ask yourself where you're staying small instead of stepping fuller into a larger role in the world, right? Where are you not sharing what you learned or what you've discovered or what you've experienced that can benefit other people? Okay, and why? What do you need to let go of or release in order to step into that bigger purpose? That's something to consider tonight. Okay, and then finally, this is a new one. Ask yourself, what is my truth? What is keeping me from it? Or how am I keeping myself from my own truth? Okay, because sometimes we do that to ourselves, right? So I'll take a moment and recap these, especially for anyone who might be joining us late. But what you'll do is write down what it is you decide you want to release on a piece of paper. And then we'll reconnect after we've each had a break to write about this, and we'll do our releasing practice. So let me just recap these real quick. Oh yay, Jonna, you're just in time for the recap. I'm about to go over the prompts one more time. So if you want to join us for that, if you need me to recap your rising sign and the themes of that house, let me know. I don't know that I remember your rising sign right off the top of my head. Just let me know in the comments if you want me to go over the house and the themes of that house. But our prompts for this evening related to the house that Sagittarius occupies in your natal chart are to ask yourself whether you're being small-minded, or whether being small-minded and less open to new ideas and experiences and information might be keeping you from growth experiences or from achieving what you actually want to achieve in that area of life. Whether, if there is a belief like that, if it's possible that it was taught to you rather than being a conclusion that you arrived at through your own experience, right? Because Sagittarius is really about the wisdom that comes from our own experience, right? So when we're talking about truth and fundamental truth and finding our truth, let's make sure we're differentiating our personal truth from beliefs that we have acquired from other people without actually testing and verifying through our own experience whether they are true for us. Okay, so if you have a belief like that that's not serving you, consider using tonight's practice to let it go. You can ask yourself where staying small instead of stepping into a fuller, larger role in the world is keeping you from sharing what you've learned or discovered or experienced that can benefit others, right? Sometimes that's the final step that we have to take to mastery, is sharing our wisdom with others, teaching others, right? And so consider why that might be, or what we might need to let go of or release in order to step into that bigger purpose, that larger role. Okay, and then finally, ask yourself, what is my truth? What is my truth in this part of my life? What is keeping me from my truth? Or how am I keeping myself from owning my truth? Okay, those are the prompts. If anyone has questions or comments, let me know. And in the meantime, grab your pen and your paper and spend some time with that. Write down what it is you wish to release on your paper. This is going to be interesting. Wow. That was kind of meaty. Maybe I should have saved it for the eclipse. I don't know. We'll see what next month brings, huh? So feel free to share in the comments or not, if it's personal, what it is you are letting go of with tonight's releasing practice. So mine, I kind of struggled with at first, and then it really started to come together. This is Sagittarius, right? So it's a 7th house full moon for me, which has to do with relationships, right? This is long-term committed relationships, anything that you do in partnership with someone else. And anytime we're working with other, that can be tough to wrangle, because we're not only working with the other person in the relationship, but we're also working with we ourselves and how we behave in the relationship. And how we behave in relationships is sometimes not the same as how we are when we're independent with ourselves, right? For a lot of different reasons, And so I didn't really work with beliefs or the idea of staying small as much as I worked with letting go of what may be hindering my ability to grow, right? So I wrote in my statement that I release old relationships which do not serve my greater growth and development and mental enlightenment, that I release any expectations I may have of my partners and any expectations I have of my own role, so that we may seek our paths with greater access to the fullest universe of possibilities. I release any relationships in which I am not in the highest good for my partner, right? It should go both ways. If I want to let go of relationships that aren't in my highest good, I should be willing to let go of relationships where I'm not in someone's highest good, right? And so I release these things. What is it we always say? With gratitude for the lesson that it brought me. And I'm burning mine, but you can tear it up into tiny, tiny little pieces. If you decide to burn yours, please be safe. Do it in a fire safe place. If you have a sink or a fire pit or fireplace or a barbecue or a fire extinguisher, that's always a good idea to keep it handy. But if you're burning it, make sure that it burns completely. You want it to be totally consumed. That was a big one. We don't often have the opportunity, or maybe even take the opportunity, to think about our own role in the relationships that we're involved in, right? And how our role and our behavior affect the dynamic. But it takes two to tango, right? Isn't that the saying? It takes two. So there we have it. Mine burnt up. Good as gone. Nice. Dun, dun, dun. Anyone else? Anyone have anything they want to share about what they're letting go of? I know I have some of my Sagittarius heavy viewers on, so maybe it's a little personal, and that's totally understandable. But if you want to share in the comments, please feel free to do that. And I would encourage you, let me grab you a link before we wrap up tonight's broadcast. It's always a good idea when we're done to spend a few moments just kind of in gratitude and meditation after your full moon releasing practice. I would encourage you to read up on the June overview and short reports if you haven't done that already. The main thing that I want to make sure you have the link to, and I thought I had it here, hold on, is I want you to be sure to have a look at the July 2019 eclipse dates and degrees and make sure whether or not you are going to be personally affected by either of the July eclipses. So I'm going to give you the link to that blog post so that you can double check. Okay, here we go. Danielle says, the only thing I started was losing weight. You know, if that's something you want to do, it's nice to start, right? That's a releasing of weight, which is interesting because Jupiter, Sagittarius, this is expansive energy, right? But a full moon is when we're done with things, isn't it? So maybe you're ready to release the weight that Sagittarius brought you, if that's the case. Kind of interesting, isn't it? But yeah, like I said, not a particularly convenient or helpful full moon for certain things. Outcomes, like I said, may not be immediately clear, and there could be a lot of tension around just conflict and power struggles. So be aware of the possibility of that with this full moon. And like I said, just use it as an opportunity to transform your thinking about whatever it is you're dealing with in your Sagittarius house or your Sagittarius Gemini axis, especially as we move deeper into eclipse season. And if you don't have to do anything, don't do anything. Just sit tight. Use the full moons to let go energetically rather than trying to do work so much in the physical world. And kick those cans, if you can, down the road for projects that you need to complete or wrap up, because once we move through these next couple of full moons, we may be in a little bit better place to actually put full moon energy to productive use. So yeah, I would just use Sagittarius full moons right now for letting go of things that are keeping you from your greater growth, right? From broadening your experiences, from opening your mind to possibilities or answers or information or anything like that. Okay. Yeah, read the June overview. Stay tuned for announcements about the 2020 planner. I'll be putting it on pre-sale shortly. And I think that's it. Catch me tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Mountain Daylight Time. Excuse me, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. 8:30 p.m. British Summer Time. I think I have that down. And 12:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which is really early on Tuesday, for the Sidereal Insights Astro Update. We're going to be talking about current sidereal transits and how you can use them, even though they're a little bit challenging right now. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you don't ever miss a broadcast. You click on the little bell icon so that you get notifications when a video drops, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.